everybody, what's up? Chad Wesley Smith here. Just got back a couple days ago from Melbourne, Australia, where I competed at Pro Raw 8 at the Arnold, Australia. It was a great time, and I decided to compete with no belt, no wrist wraps, no knee sleeves, walked out, self handoff on the bench, about as raw as you could get while you're still wearing a singlet, which I offered to go singlet free. I thought it would bring in maybe some more viewers. The back spotter seemed a little bit too excited about it, so I decided not to go with that route. But a lot of people have been asking, why did I decide to compete completely as raw as it gets, extra raw? And the reason was really that I wasn't planning on competing. I went over there just with my shoes to do a couple seminars, and as I was there, Markopoulos, who's runs PTC headquarters and is the promoter for Pro Raw, just kind of asked me to compete, and I figured, well, I'm here, I'm not doing anything else, so might as well give it a try. And originally I had been training for Pro Raw 8 and was planning to compete in belt and knee wraps in late January. The training was going fine. I had a couple little hip issues going on, but nothing major. The thing that was really happening for me was training just wasn't fun. I've been competing in powerlifting for only about 5.5 years now, but I come from a track and field background. I was a shot putter. I threw an Olympic standard, so far enough to go to the Olympics. It's just that the U.S. is stacked, but I digress. But come from an athletic background, and powerlifting training is not athletic in a lot of ways, and it becomes very tedious and becomes very redundant at times, and that's really what was happening to me. I was worn down mentally by running Juggernaut, starting Grind Sports Nutrition, starting the Juggernaut HQ gym, and trying to train at the highest level for powerlifting, and it just wasn't fun for me anymore. So I decided to take a step back from that and kind of get back to my training roots. So sprinting, jumping, throwing, doing some weightlifting, doing different kind of conditioning exercises, really just training however I wanted to on that day, training with almost complete lack of structure, and just trying to have fun and kind of reignite that fire and that passion for training hard. And if that is for powerlifting again, that's great. If it's not, I'm not going to say that I'm, at this point I think I have at least one more powerlifting meet in me, but I just kind of need some time to reset the system, and it's been a really fun change. And from about February 1st until Pro Raw, which was on March 20th, so six or 7 weeks there, I didn't do powerlifting. I was doing hill sprints a couple times a week. I was doing box jumps. I was snatching. And coming from the really athletic background, it was really fun, but also humbling in a way to get back to doing these things that I used to be really good at. When I was a senior in college, I threw the shot put about 64 feet, the 16-pound shot put, and I was maybe 6 foot or 6'1", 290 pounds. I was running under 4.7 in the 40, could dunk a basketball with 2 hands, had about a 36-inch vertical, had done a 50-inch box jump. And early in my powerlifting career, I stayed doing some of those things, especially box jumps. I'd done a 50-inch box jump at over 300 pounds body weight. And then when I injured my back in June 2013 with 2 herniated discs, a lot of that stuff, I had to stop doing it right then because I couldn't do anything. I could barely walk for the first several days of that. So when I decided to come back, when I was coming back from that injury, the sprinting and jumping and the more athletic movements kind of fell by the wayside. And I think I lost something in my training with that. So it had been almost 3 years since I'd done any real jumping. And for a guy who had jumped on a 50-inch box before, that first day back to box jumps, I'm standing there looking at this 30-inch box, and something 3 years ago would never even cross my mind. It probably wasn't even a warm-up. It was very daunting this time around to look at it and be like, man, can I make this right now? It was one of the most nerve-wracking jumps I've ever done. And it's been really fun to get back into that stuff and just have a change of pace. So these next couple months, I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep trying to enjoy my training as much as I can every day. And sometime this summer, if it feels right, I'm going to get back to training hard for powerlifting. But in the meantime, I'm going to be doing stuff like you guys are watching right now and just continuing to have fun with it. And I have some other kind of athletic goals to reach in the meantime with that. Planning on doing a Highland Games in May, maybe a weightlifting meet if I can actually rack a clean, which right now isn't a possibility. But continue to try and lose some weight. I lost about 20 pounds from February 1st till March 13th or so, whenever I'd left for Australia. So I'd like to lose about 20 more pounds and just get healthier, have fun, reclaim some of the athleticism that I left back in 2012 and 2013, and be a strength athlete again. And if my heart says that in a couple more weeks or a couple more months that I want to train hard for powerlifting, I got my eye on a meet, and if it feels right, I'm gonna do that. But in the meantime, just really enjoying what I have, and I think there's definitely some merit for those of you watching. Of course, you need to have fun with what you're doing, whether it's your first powerlifting meet or you're trying to set one of the highest totals in the world all time. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's not worth doing, because powerlifting, people would probably consider me to be a professional powerlifter, but I don't make my living from doing powerlifting meets. So if I'm not having fun doing it, what's the point? And I think that it's also worthwhile to include that athletic training, whether you keep it in all the time or you just have kind of an off season. Because I have plenty of videos talking about programming and optimal training. And a lot of those things aren't a part of optimal training, because optimal training from a scientific standpoint is going to be pretty tedious and can be boring. And I've said before that I'd rather be bored for 12 weeks or 16 weeks, however long the training cycle is, to be really excited on that one day of the meet. And that's worked great for me. I had 4 meets in a row where I set at least 3 PRs, whether it was a squat PR, bench PR, deadlift PR, or a total PR. I had at least 3 of those PRs at 4 meets in a row. And I did that through very specific training, and it just got boring. Even making the PRs on meet day wasn't enough for me at that point. I know Ilya Ilyin, one of the greatest weightlifters of all time, he does the same kind of thing where he has 2 or 3 months out of the year where he said he only does the lifts about 1 time a week. Spends the rest of the time, playing basketball and swimming and, just kind of doing whatever he wants. You guys see him breakdancing in some of his videos. And, kind of refreshing yourself that way if things do get boring, or, doing some CrossFit workouts, or if you're a powerlifter doing some weightlifting or doing some strongman. If that's going to keep your mind fresh and keep you having fun with what you're doing, that's another part of optimal training. So it's all part of the process, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing right now. I was very happy to go out there, relatively untrained to Australia, in total 955 kilos, 2104. It was nowhere near my best performance in the squat or bench, but I've been doing high bar squats like 1 or 2 times a week when I felt like it. Some days it was for sets of 5, and some days it was for sets of 10, and some days it was for a top single if I felt good. Bench, I've been doing mostly reps and bodybuilding kind of stuff, and the best performance of the day for me was definitely the deadlift. I pulled 365 kilos, 804 pounds with no belt, and my meet best with a belt is 370 kilos, 815. And I think since I started this sort of off-season or refreshing training, or whatever we want to call it, I think I had deadlifted about 5 sets total. And one of those sets was the pyramid at the Arnold, and the other ones were spread over 2 different training days. They're like 2 sets of 5 and 2 sets of 3 on 2 different days. So to go in and pull a PR was, I was probably more surprised by it than anyone else, because I didn't feel like I was really in shape for that. Right now it's fun to take on these different challenges, refresh my body, do some different stuff, and hopefully you guys enjoy watching me jump on way lower boxes than I used to be able to jump on, and run way slower than I used to be able to run. As a lot of this stuff, it was very, very humbling for me, and trying to snatch and do all that stuff, but you have to have fun with what you're doing, and I'm trying to do that right now.